Hey guys, welcome to my shop. My name is Tony, and today we're going to turn some pens. I've had a lot of people ask me about pen turning. A lot of my bowl turning friends are like, oh, I've always thought about it, but it looks like such a pain. You need so many new tools, and I don't know if I want to do it. And I've also had people the other direction who are like pen turners. You're like, oh, I've been turning pens for a few years, and I'd really like to learn to turn a bowl. Today, we're going to focus on turning pens. I'm going to take you over to my workbench, show you all the tools you need, the supplies. We'll go over a few of the different kits and bushings that are available, and then we'll jump right to the project. Okay, one of the biggest tools that's going to be helpful for you is going to be what's called a pen mandrel. In this particular one, you got this goes into your live center, and this goes into your headstock. So these are actually going to slide over each other like that, and it's going to hold your pen blank in here when you get ready to turn it. So it's a pretty simple system. Again, mine's a number 2 Morris taper on this end. Simple kit. I've got a link down in the description if you're interested in the one I'm using. I believe mine is from PSI. It's been a very dependable kit. I think it was $19, and I've been using it now for 5 years. So they don't wear out. The other thing you're going to need are bushings. Now these bushings are going to hold your blank onto your mandrel and give you space so you can turn down to it. So these are spacer bushings, and then you have the actual bushings here. I 3D printed these for the particular kit I'm using, and I'll tell you why here in a couple minutes. But this is just the bushings that you put on the end. They'll go inside your brass tube, and this will give you the diameter you want to turn to get down to the actual pen kit diameter. So what you have there is you're going to need a pen kit, and the kit's going to come with a decorative top cap, an actual engine, which is what's going to put your pen in and out, and it will usually come with a tip down here. This kit is already pre-assembled with the engine to the tip. A lot of kits come where you have to put the engine into the tip later, depending on if it's a 2-piece kit or a single-piece kit. Today we're just going to turn a single-piece kit. It's the easiest one to get involved with, and it will also come with the brass tube. This is what we're going to insert into our wood blank. So like the bushings will go into the ends like this, doop, 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 and then go onto our mandrel, and we'll have our wood in here, and we'll fix this brass tube to our wood blank, which we have down below here. I went ahead and prepped. I'm going to go ahead and show you how to drill them because that is part of the process. But I went ahead and prepped 5 little blanks here. I've got some Bethlehem olive, and I've cut them to length on my chop saw. I've got some Coca-Cola here, and I've cut that down. It's got some pretty grain. Should end up being nice. And then I went into my secret stash and got out a piece of my pink ivory. If you haven't heard the story on this pink ivory, I bought an actual pink ivory log back in 1992. And a buddy of mine who worked at Mead Instruments got together and we milled it down into blanks. And this is literally over 30 years old. It's been in my collection. I've got a couple of other little pieces left. But if you look up pink ivory, this is one of the rarest woods in the world. And when it became available, I'm like, oh, I've got to buy it. And of course, I wasn't a good enough turner back in 1992 to do it justice. So I've been holding on to these blanks for years. So we'll make a pink ivory pen to go along with it. I've got 5 of these. I've got 5 pen kits set aside. The other thing you're going to want, if you don't already have one, is a set of pen jaws for your chuck. This is a Nova G3 with the pin jaws on it. And this allows us to put that on there. I don't have it open all the way, but we'll slide right in there and be able to drill our hole for the brass tube that goes in there. And we'll show you how to do that. And then you should already have a Jacobs chuck. And in this case, I have the drill bit already installed in the one I'm going to use that fits my brass tube. Now, every pen kit you get, whether they're from Turner's Warehouse or PSI or you buy one on Amazon, they're going to have instructions, tell you the diameter you need. Most of them are going to come with bushings. So there are some less expensive kits that are high quality components, like the one we're using here. And I'll explain that to you too about what I'm turning here and why I picked this kit. So let's reset and I'll show you the whole kits here. So today we're going to be using a kit that's made by a company called Collar, C-O-L-A-R-R. They are not a sponsor. I paid for these with my own money, and I used these kits because of, at first, it was just their price point. I said, wow, these are inexpensive. I just want to turn a handful of pens for a show. I really don't want to have a huge dollars invested in my inventory in case pens aren't going out this week. But when we got down to it, I got them in, and the quality was amazing. Really nice knurling down on the bottom. The gold tip up here really adds some class and character. The acrylic is shiny, doesn't have any scratches in it, and they're simple to put together. The catch is, this kit does not come with instructions or bushings, and it's a slightly odd size. So you have to either turn your own bushings, so you can turn these on your lathe using the pen mandrel you have. You just get out your calipers and you measure down to the diameters you want. turn your bushings, and then to be careful not to nick your bushings as you're building. Or in my case, I just took all my measurements and 3D printed myself a set. That way I can print them out and not worry about damaging them. You could also, if you have a metal machine, a lathe in your shop, you can machine a set of bushings, but there are no bushings available for the collar kit that are perfect. The closest I came to were the Gadsby bushings from PSI, and they still didn't fit on the interior, so I ended up using some blue tape to tighten them up, and it wasn't perfect. So I went ahead and, like I said, 3D printed a set of bushings. You don't need to do that. Almost every kit is going to come with bushings. So I keep my little box of bushings here from all the different kits that I've bought over the years. And most of my kits have been PSI and a few from Turner's Warehouse. I really love the guys at Turner's Warehouse. They're good people. But they're going to send you the name. See, here's Woodturnings. And they have the whole bushing kit. So this particular one has got one center diameter and then two different diameters on the ends to make that pen kit. We don't have to worry about that today. We're going to do a single pen kit. But you know, you're going to get a set of bushings like this when you do your pen kit. And then if you save them, you never have to buy them again, and the kits get cheaper when you're not buying them with bushings. Not a lot cheaper, but you know, it's a couple bucks. So this kit is under $3 when you buy a dozen of them from Amazon. I do have a link in the description, which is an affiliate link. So if you get an opportunity to take a look at that, that'd be awesome. But I'll kind of walk through each of the parts that come with it and how I overcame the lack of instructions. So when the kit shows up, you're going to get this. 12 of these in a little plastic sleeve. They're in nice shape. It comes packaged well. And I think it's $36 or so, and you get, you know, enough to make 12 pens. Now, if you're like me, you've got scraps around the shop, tons and tons of scraps, and you can set up your system there, your miter saw or your table saw or your band saw, and just cut them roughly to length. What you really want to make sure, though, is that your ends are square. So if you can't get a nice square end of what you have, take it to your disc sander, get it down there, make sure you stay outside of your lines because we're going to trim that up later. And then all we have to do is drill the hole to match our brass tube, and we'll take it over to the lathe and show you the setup for that. So once you have your pin jaws mounted here, and if you don't already have a set, you can use a tight set of the smallest jaws you have. You can turn your blanks down, you can glue them, or you can use a drill press. There's a lot of ways to do it. My personal preference, though, is always to use the chucks on the drill. I know I'm going to get a nice concentric hole, although the inserts on the Nova a little tighter, and there are some sharp edges on this particular jaw, so be really careful with that. So you get your jaws mounted, and then got to put your Jacobs chuck in on the other end with your drill bit. In this case, the drill bit size that I'm using, and you may have letter drill bits because 245 is perfect. I actually have it so far in here, I'm going to have to pull it out to tell you what size it is because I don't remember. The benefits of age. Okay, we are using 27/64 is what we have here for our inside hole. So if you have a letter size, I believe that's an E for 245, which would be a little bit tighter than what I currently have. So whatever you got in there, but almost every drill bit set, like the Harbor Freight one that I'm using here with the brad points, that came with a 245. Or excuse me, with an 27/64. Wow, jeez. So I'm sure everyone knows how to drill a hole, but when you're doing a pen blank with these types of jaws, it really makes it easy to come around the side here. Open your jaws up, put it in with the angles, seat it in as far as you can because the drill bit there's plenty of space in there for it to go. Give it a light little crank, and it's ready for us to drill a hole through the center. So let's move that around and get you good spots so you can see how that goes. So I always like to seat my drill bit against the end, lock it, and just crank it back half a crank so we know we're in center when it starts up. Now my wood, you want to try to trim it as close to you can to square, but it's not critical for this application. I'll be drilling at about 600 RPM, and we'll keep one hand on the Jacobs chuck and slowly advance it in. There's no prizes for going fast on this. You don't get a ribbon or a trophy. So you just slowly let her roll in, and you should get a nice concentric hole. We already got a little bit of burning on this Coca-Cola here, so I'll keep pulling it out, blowing off the chips until we get our hole all the way through. Now, I like to batch these because I don't like switching my tools back and forth, just like everybody, I'm sure. See, I'm getting a little smoke there. You can also push in as you go, lock her down. So I'll usually set up once. I'll drill 5 to 10 of my blanks at one time, because usually when it's a pen day, since there's a lot of setup involved, I'll make sure that I'm not wasting any of my time, right? No one wants to waste their time. So if I can like say, hey, today is pen day, I'm gonna go ahead and drill out my 10 blanks, make 10 pens, get them ready for the next show. And as you get closer, ooh, it is really compressing nicely. As you get closer to the end, you want to slow down so you don't get any tear out. And you'll get a feel for it. You'll start to hear the first brad point poke through. And once it does, just slow cranks until you're all the way through. And then you'll feel zero resistance right there, see? We have no resistance. A lot of times I'll go ahead and shut my lathe off at this point so I don't change the shape of my hole. Pull out my bit. Make sure you don't have any embers and you've cleaned up your shop area so that if there is some ember, you don't end up with a fire. And ta-da! So we have a hole. It's not exactly through the middle, and that's okay because we're only going to be using a small amount of this, almost like a veneer. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the rest of these, or drill the holes in the rest of these, and then I'll show you how we rough up our brass blank and glue it into the middle and mount it on our mandrel. Once you have everything all drilled out, like I put all 5 of those on there, probably won't show it in the time lapse, just to give you the idea of what was going on. I had one that actually slid down into the unit itself, into my chuck. So I had to pop that out halfway through. So there's little things like that that will take some time if you don't get it right the first time. But I didn't damage any of my blanks, so I've got nice holes concentrically running down all 5 of our pieces so we can glue those up. So before I move on to the next stage, I always put away the first stage tools so that A, they don't get lost, and B, they're just not in my way. I'm not tripping over things or getting a chance to poke myself. If you noticed, this drill bit's probably getting a little dull now, and it's time to sharpen it up so they won't smoke quite as much, but I didn't get any burning or charring on any of the ends that are going to show, so I think that we're going to be good. All right, let's get over there and show you how to put those brass tubes in. One of the things that I usually like to do, of course this is just my preference, is I like to lay out a soft terry here because these things want to roll. And while my workbench is pretty level, it's still not perfect. So after you've opened up your kits, in this case all you have to do is pop it apart, get your brass tube out, set the rest of the pieces apart. So you go through all of them like that, and it's a really pretty simple process. You don't want to put too much pressure on anything. But after we get all of our pieces staged, we'll move on to the next step. So I just folded over my towel, keeping my pieces inside of that, and I put my brass tubes on the top. Then we get out our pre-drilled blanks for the rest of it, and a piece of 120 grit Abernet is what I'm using. You really need to polish up, or not polish, but rough up the outsides of these tubes so they stick nice with the CA glue in the inside. So I will usually do one at a time. You could batch all these too, but that way they're drying, and by the time I pick the first one from my patch, I'll be ready to, when I finish the last one, the first one will be ready for me to take right to the lathe. I generally, like to keep a little board out here that's known and flat. This is a simple piece of just 3/4 inch scrap ply. Take a little Star Bond medium, again not sponsored, I buy this with my own money and they are the best right now that I've ever used. Put a pretty generous little bead on there, don't get any on your fingers, and then start from one end and rotate as you put it in. Slide it back and forth a few times and then tap it so it's flush on one end, like so. And if it doesn't go all the way in, you can give it another little tap with your finger. And then I take one shot of accelerator. That's all I do. Then I put it aside to dry as I get the next one ready. Next one's going to be this piece of Bethlehem olive. And we just go through the same process. Go back and forth, just rough up the outside edge of your brass tube here. The actual collar kit claims that this is copper, but I'm pretty sure it's brass. And either way, you got to rough it up to get a nice, see a little swirly pattern on there. Just some rough it up. Little dab of our glue. And again, I use medium for this. I know some people use thick. Don't use thin. It'll run through, get everywhere. Put it in and out a little bit. Rotate as you go. Try to get it all the way in flush. Get a nice flush like that on the end because we're going to grind off that other side there on the disc sander just to make sure it's perfectly flat. And move on to the next. So that's kind of the process. Rinse and repeat. And you can get them all done pretty quickly. Okay, here I am taking the excess from the other side. We left it just a little bit over, and I'm using my disc sander, nice and squared up, to just grind away that excess. Doesn't take much, you just want to go right down to the brass, keep it a nice square end, and you'll be ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and do that right here at the bench instead of on the lathe, but the next ones we'll do on the lathe. I start with the little spacer that came with it. This is a 7mm spacer. You'd use this for making slimline pens. And then I put our bushing on that's going to go with this existing design. We'll go ahead and start with this nice piece of olive, Bethlehem olive here. Fits right in the hole. And we put our next bushing on, and you'll see how it just locks it right on. Boop, it's in there, and then another spacer. And now we're ready to mount that to the lathe. So we've got our spacer, bushing, blank, bushing, spacer, and we're ready to go. So all we have to do, stick it in the collet like that, and then we put our tailstock center in. This has a hole that goes all the way through it. Line it up a little bit there. It'll push all the way in. Once we touch, we can lock it down and just give it a crank there. And now that's going to spin. Our blank will spin with everything else, and we're ready to just turn it like we would any other little spindle. Now we'll turn on the power here. And now one of the cool things is we've got this locked in. We can turn this at 1500 to 2000 RPM, making it a very easy turn with a skew or spindle roughing gouges. So I'm going to go ahead and mount overhead so you can see the tool work on this, but it's pretty simple and the finishing's even easier. Even though this is small, you still want to use a mask and a face shield. You want to use all your normal safety precautions. And just kind of get up there. I'm going to go ahead and start this one off with a spindle roughing gouge. Or actually, I'm use just a spindle detail gouge. I have a 3/4 inch one here from Crown. Or this is a Hurricane version, but it's just like you're working on any spindle. Keep the rest in a comfortable spot. I'm going to turn the speed off so I can get as close as I can here now. You can see we're taking nice, easy cuts on our olive there. Real simple. We'll have a nice little burl on the end there. Should end up being interesting looking. So the process is the same as if you're turning a finial or a knob or anything you want round. Once you get it all the way around, you'll be able to feel that. You can then set your profile, the shape you want for it. You feel that burl turns a little differently. Still a little bit of bouncing there, but I'm going to go ahead and grab a skew just because it's a tool that I'm more comfortable with. And we'll just do our standard anchor bevel and get some really nice cuts. And I'll stop just to show you what that cut looks like. You get a beautiful cut from the skew, and the olive is, you can't go wrong with olive. It's such a pretty wood. And again, this is Bethlehem olive. It came from the Holy Land, according to the seller. So let's catch my bevel. We get our size down. So we're already round now. But I still like to take really light cuts since we're going to be turning this down to almost veneer thickness. We'll be about, I don't know, probably 0.63 total wall thickness. Maybe we can measure when we're done. We do have the support of the brass in there, and we've got our glue on that. So I'm turning downhill towards my bushing. And you can do that in both directions. You can now find a shape that you like. If you want to put a shape on it, if you want to leave it a little wider in the middle. If you want to taper it, you want to make it a complete cylinder. You have a lot of freedom when you're doing a pen. I like to leave it a little tapered towards the bottom, a little bulge in the middle. It just seems more comfortable in my hand when I'm writing with the instrument. Once I get there, I'll usually grab a detail gouge and I get down to my actual bushing thickness. This is the diameter that's going to be made up with the rest of our pen kit, right? So this is the, so you can see right on the horizon there. So I'll go ahead and turn that off so we can zoom in on it. We want to basically have very little ridge right here. A teeny ridge won't hurt. It's actually quite pretty the way that they all line up on this pen blank. But we're turning it down to the diameter of this bushing. This is going to set your inside. You can almost think of it as a little fixture or jig. So with these 3D printed ones, I have to be very careful not to nick them because they are plastic and they will just cut just like the wood does. And I'll come in the other direction now and do the same thing. And if you never had the privilege of cutting really good olive wood, do yourself the favor. It smells amazing. So now I can feel across there I've got no ridge, and now I can just shape the inside of the pen to whatever look I want before we finish it. And finishing this is very easy. It's a very small surface we have to work with. Right? Little flex in there. So I'll take some lighter passes. And this is where the artistry of pen making comes in. You find your shape. I won't call it your voice, but you know there's something very unique about how you choose to shape your pen. What look you want for it. It's entirely yours. There's no right or wrong way. There's no, that's a perfect one, that isn't a perfect one. It's, hey, if you're happy with it, you've done a good job then. As it starts spinning fast and you're getting close there, sometimes it's a little hard to keep an edge. Keep a bevel going. Now I made, in my mind, a little mistake here because I saw this, the dark part of the bevel. I can see a teeny little dip here, so I'm going to have to smooth that out. You don't want to take too much wood off or we're down to our brass. And you can also use the wing. And down here we can also use the wing to blend our two areas here. Now I know a lot of guys get a lot of fun out of seeing if they can make a pen without having to sand. And when I'm doing wood every now and then, just for the heck of it, I'll see if I can get such a perfect cut with my skew that doesn't require any sanding. If you take a look here, I mean, that's so pretty. You can still see a little bit of tool line there, and this appears where I scraped up against the grain. So once you get it down to the shape you like, you're happy with your rim here, I still feel like I could take a teeny bit more off of here, but we can also sand that down. So this next part, I have to put on my microclimate mask and turn on my air compressor, my dust collector, because I don't want to be breathing any of this. But all we're going to do is we're going to start out with about 180 grit, and with a pen, we're going to go all the way up to 1,000 before we wax it with the wood grain. Now you can get away with probably only going to 400 depending on how your pen looks. It will stop along the way and look. But I have a 180 grit here, and we'll just jump right in with some sanding here. Let me go put my mask and stuff on, and we'll be right back. So that's sanded at 180. And with all spindles, I always stop and sand with the grain before I switch over to my next grit, making sure that you get all the cross grain scratches. That way you've got your scratches going this direction. Now you can make them that way. You get a little crosshatch pattern that ends up making for a very smooth finish. A lot of people are wanting to put a CA finish. I tend to just go with wax. That's my normal, and I do the same thing on my pens. So from 180, we're going to go to 220, 320, 400, 600, 800, and then we'll stop and I'll pull you back in. That is right there sanded to 400, which on wood is beautiful. On acrylic, it's never enough. You can still see, no, that's a little grain in there. So we really don't have any scratches at all. So from there, I'm going to go ahead and move over to a little bit of hard abrasive wax. This is Pita's True Grit here. And we just put a little teeny bit on our towel, spin it up, and kind of rub it in there. So all we're doing is we're just making sure we get rid of all the micro scratches, fill in anything at the pore level, and then we move again to a clean section of the towel, and we just make a few passes till that's all gone. And it looks pretty good. What do we got there? That looks pretty nice, huh? Now from there, I will use just our shop shine, which is just a teeny bit of the shop shine on a blue shop towel. Literally just enough to wet the end of the towel. There's just not that much surface here. So we'll take that. And I am right now spinning at 1600 RPM. I'll just put a little of that shine on there and just kind of let the friction and the heat work it in. You can see the beautiful reflection there. That looks really nice on a table, and it'll feel smooth to someone's hand when they pick it up. And I'll take a little dry piece of the towel to make sure that we don't have any residue. Add a little. And voila, or as my dad would say, viola. We have a beautiful little section of our pen there, which will be the decorative wood item on our collar pen. So all I have to do is unlock my tailstock, pull it out of the way long enough. We take off our spacer, our sizing bushing, and then we just slide off our piece on the brass tube. Put these back in the same order. You'll always have consistency, and we have a beautiful little piece there all done up for us. Huh? So let's pop over to the workbench now, and I'll show you how you assemble it. So the first part of this process is deciding which part you want to be up. I like to take the slightly thinner section and make that my up. So all we do is we press these in like so and line them up, and then you set up your pen press, which is another tool you want. This I know takes 3 back, and all you have to do to do that is you slide your pen press back, line up your ends like so, and I will get my hand out of your way so you can see. We want to make sure that we're centered in here and that these are lined up to go in straight, or we can break our tube. And then you slowly move the pen press forward, watching this end slowly slide in. And if you have to make some adjustments, just kind of hold it down, press it until it locks in place. I didn't put enough pressure on that one because I'm trying to do it around the camera, not my normal vibe here. So we can lock it in place like so, and you can watch it just slide in, and that locks in place. So now it's a pressure fitting. Very difficult to pull that out. It doesn't mar on either end. And we have the top part of our pen. Now to do the bottom, we're going to take that. We have the engine. It's going to mount into that top cap. So you find that spot in there and you give it a good little push. So you line up the pen and engine. The engine plugs into the cap up here. Slide your pen press back. Get your non-marring rubber part there. Make sure that you're lined up nice and centric here. So we are watching that. We want to make sure we're in the middle. We'll hold our pen press down and apply slight but firm pressure, and we've locked our pen in place. Now we pull that out, release the pressure, no scratches, twist the bottom, our ballpoint pen comes right out, and you have a beautiful Bethlehem olive wood pen there. So the only thing I will do after that is I will get a micro towel, wipe off any residual sawdust, and put it in a little box or a presentation box and set it out on the counter, and it's ready to go. Well, I hope you found that helpful. Hope you had fun trying to make a pen here, going through all the steps. Really simple. Again, there's a link for every tool I use down below. They are affiliate links, so I will get a little commission if you choose to use them, but it gives you an idea of what I'm using, and you can go out and shop for those, see if you can get a better deal. But pretty simple process, a lot of fun to make, and they always do quite well at shows. So you also make great gifts, don't forget that. Anyway, I hope you had a great time. If you did, and I earned your subscription and your like, I'd sure appreciate one of each. And if you share the video, it really helps my channel grow. Been having a lot of fun doing this. I appreciate the project idea, asking me to walk through this, and hopefully you get something out of it. Have a great day and get out there and turn something.